Okay, good evening. So I decided to show you my face to make the experience seem more real to you than just a talking screen. So I hope you're all doing well and a happy Ramadan again for all of you. And I hope you're having great times with your families and friends. So today we are going to study a new poem by Sir Henry Howard, known as Earl of Surrey. And in the handout, I chose Brittle Beauty, but then I realized that that poem is really complicated, complex for you, not complicated, complex, and it requires a lot of interpretation and mm, it can be understood or read in more than one way, and I thought that would be challenging for you. So I chose a simpler poem, and here we go. So this one is um, Alas, so all things now do hold their peace. Okay, so just let's look at it. Okay, so this was supposed to be on April 18, but I'm recording it now. So Sir Henry Howard, 1517 to 1547. He's the eldest son of Lord Thomas Howard. He took the title of Earl of Surrey in 1524 when his father succeeded as third Duke of Norfolk. So technically he was a royalty because both his father and mother were from the royal family. So he was supposed to succeed. I mean, he was the closest in line to succeed Henry VIII if he failed to have sons. Okay, so he was confined at Windsor from 1537 to 1539 after being charged by the Seymours with having secretly favored the Roman Catholics in the rebellion of 1536. So the Seymours are the brothers and father of Jane Seymour, the wife King Henry had after Anne Boleyn, and she's the one who gave him a son, Edward. So she died after childbirth, so her brothers were raising the child. I mean, of course, I mean, they were responsible for the teachings and everything of the child. And the child was, because he was the only male heir of the king, so he was the one to succeed the king after the king's death. So the Seymours were afraid of Henry Howard because um, he had the right to claim the throne after the king's death if something happened to Edward. So they were trying to remove him so that he would no longer be a threat. So his prospects were improved by the marriage of his cousin Catherine Howard to the king. So Catherine Howard was the wife of the king. So I have to count the numbers. So first you have Catherine of Aragon, then you have Anne Boleyn, then you have Jane Seymour, then you have um, what was her name? Anne of Cleves. So they were married, but their marriage was not consummated, so the marriage was annulled. So then he married Catherine Howard. Catherine Howard was again accused of adultery by the king, and I mean, she pretty much did cheat on him, but of course, there's no reason to kill someone. So he chopped off her head too. So she's the second wife the king beheads. And of course, that made also Henry Howard fall from grace for the king. So the Seymours kept annoying him and saying that he's a cheater and he's a liar and he wants to take your place, he wants to kill your son. So, after being accused of wanting to assume the king's throne after his death, he was executed on Tower Hill at the age of 30. So, this poor man was killed at the age of 30 because of all the plots against him. Okay, so his poetry, so most of Surrey's poetry was probably written during his confinement at Windsor, all first published in 1557, almost 10 years after his death. And he acknowledged White as a master and followed him in adapting Italian forms of English verse. Surrey was the first who developed the sonnet form used by William Shakespeare. So we call English sonnet Shakespearean sonnet, but it was actually Henry Howard who initiated this change in the Italian sonnet into the English sonnet. Okay, and besides the usual early Tudor themes of love and death, he also wrote of life in London, friendship, and youth. In two complaints of the absence of her lover being upon the sea, unusual for his period, he wrote from the woman's point of view. Uh, so he did something new when he wrote a poem in the woman's point of view instead of the man's. And Sher's translation of books 2 and 4, I think that's 4, yes, 4 of the Aeneid, I'm not sure how that's read, by Virgil was the first use in English of blank verse, a style adopted from Italian verse. So you remember I said Shakespeare wrote in the blank verse, especially for his plays. So the blank verse was also developed by um, Earl of Surrey. So we can say that Shakespeare owes a lot to Sir Henry Howard. And who knows, maybe if Sir Henry Howard did not die or wasn't killed at the age 30, maybe today we would be calling the Shakespearean sonnet the Howardian sonnet, something like that. Okay, because he's the one who began the process of changing those sonnets and those verses, but now Shakespeare came and took credit for it because he completed the process. He made the final change. Okay, so that's about his poetry. Now the poem, alas, all things now, so all things now do hold their peace. So this is a sonnet, but it doesn't have the kind of um, let's say rhyme scheme that you have of neither Italian sonnet nor Shakespearean sonnet. So you have peace, think, seize, bring. So that's A B A B. Okay. Then less, just like peace is A. Ring like thing is B. Increase and sing are again A B. So A B A B A B A B. Okay, then case is just like peace A. Bring B. Disease A. Sting B. So you have all A B A B A B A B until the final couplet. Gain and pain are C C. So the rhyme scheme is then A B A B A B A B A B A B A B A B. Okay, you continue until the final couplet, which is CC. But you can see, so this is what I mean when I say he initiated the change in Italian sonnets to English sonnets or Shakespearean sonnet, because the ABAB in the octet, and until the final couplet is similar to Italian sonnet. But then the final rhymed couplet is just like English sonnet. So it's like a hybrid of both. قاطع يعني أم سرتاي شكسبيريان sonnet يعني English sonnet دروس كر گۆڕانکاری کرد لە ئیتاڵەن سۆنێتە بەرەو ئینگلیش سۆنێتی برد بەڵام لەبەرەوەی ڕەنگە لەبەرەوە بێت کە زوو لە ژیانە نەما ئەو کەسەی پرۆسەکەی کامڵ کرد شێکسپیر بوو کە کردی بە ئینگلیش سۆنەت یان شێکسپیریان سۆنەت بۆی ئەبینی وەکو جۆرێک لە تێکەڵەیەکە لە هەردوو جۆرە سۆنێتەکە بە پێی ڕایم سکیمەکە بۆی لە کاتی ئینتەرپریتیشنە تۆزێک قورسە تەوزیعکردنی ماناکانی ئەم شعرە. Okay, so I just divided it like this. First part, Alas, so all things now do hold their peace, heaven and earth disturbed in nothing. The bees, the air, the birds, their song do cease. The night scarf, the stars about doth bring. Calm as the sea, the waves work less and less. So am not I, whom love, alas, doth wring, bringing both my face and great increase of my desires, wherewith I weep and sing, enjoying woe as in a doubtful case. So basically, this is about a person who is in love and suffering, and they notice or they talk about how everything around them is in peace except them because they are suffering because of love. So alas means unfortunately, sadly, so just like a sigh of pain and despair. So all things now do hold their peace. Everything now is keeping their peace, their tranquility, their peace. So that's a clear word. Heaven and earth disturbed in nothing. Heaven, like the sky, and earth, the earth, nothing disturbs them, nothing irritates them, annoys them. Everything is peaceful in their own place. The beasts, which means the animals, the air is air, the birds, their song do cease. So the sound of everything, the animals, the wind, the air here can mean the wind or the sound the air makes, as in winds. The birds, everything, they get quiet. Even the birds stop singing. Okay, so the birds, their song do cease. The night scarf the stars about doth bring, and the night comes and the stars appear. Calm as the sea. The sea is quiet, is calm. The waves work less and less. The waves stop moving fast. Okay, so they work less and less. So am not I, but me, I'm not like that, whom love alas doth wring, who unfortunately love squeezes, so like love is squeezing his heart, bringing before my face the great increase of my desires. So he's the one who is not in peace because love is squeezing him, is hurting him, and it's reminding him of the increase of his desires, of his wants, of his wishes, whereat I weep and sing, and at which he does what? He cries Weeping is silent crying where you shed tears but don't make a sound. And sing, he starts singing because of his desires that are hurting him. Enjoy and woe, as in a doubtful case. He's singing for joy, or like from joy or from pain. Woe means pain, as in a doubtful case, because he's in a state of doubt. He's not sure what to feel. Okay, so this is just like a kind of paraphrasing of what he says. Okay, so this poem starts with describing nature. And what kind of nature? Nature that is in peace and quiet and calm. Okay, and the time he's referring to is the night time, where everything starts to go still. Okay, and he's saying sadly, everything in nature, everything around me, is able to keep their peace, to remain peaceful and calm, except me. So he is like a kind of anomaly in this situation. He's the one who is not um, part, or let's say in harmony with nature when the night comes. So everything else, the earth, the heaven, the sky, nothing disturbs them. Even the animals, the birds, they stop singing, they stop making any sounds, they go to bed. Everyone is um, keeping quiet because the night has come. Okay, and then the night car, the stars about to bring. So what does that mean? The night's car. Of course, at that time there were no cars. So car here means a chariot, like a horse-drawn cart. The night's car, the stars about doth bring. So the night is described as a chariot that's dragging the stars after it. So it's a kind of what? It's kind of metaphor. Okay, so the night is described as a chariot that creeps up, okay, comes moving slowly and spreads or brings out all the stars with it. Okay, يعني سوقوا أربانيكا أو أربانا جورا جوانا كاني السبرايا كشت أربانيكيت لقل خويا تشي أهينت تشي بدوي خويا راكشت أستيركان أهينت وحليانكا بلايانكا تولونا. So that's the kind of imagery you have or image you have. Calm is the sea. Okay, the sea is quiet. The waves work less and less. Okay, so you can see the waves are described as like are personified. Waves work, of course, that's alliteration, less and less alliteration. So the slowing down of the waves is described as working less, as if they are people personified. Okay. Uh, so am not I whom love Allah's doth ring. So after the poet describes everything about how, let's say, how nature is keeping its quiet, keeping its peace, everything is in its place, nothing is disturbing anything at all. But in contrast to this, we have the poet who is, or let's say the speaker, who is not as peaceful as them. He's actually in a state of anxiousness, in a state of agony because of what? Okay, because of love. whom love allows does wring. To wring is to squeeze something. So he's not in peace because love is squeezing him, is making his life hard. And the love is bringing before his face the great increase of his desire. So the love is pushing him hard, squeezing him, and showing him his desires and how they keep increasing. And at this, or as a reaction to this, he weeps, he cries calmly, silently, and he sings. Okay, so you have two contrasting emotions, crying and singing. And the singing is for two reasons: for joy, out of joy, and woe, out of pain. And the reason for this contrast, for this contradiction, is because of he's in a doubtful case. He's in a state of doubt. Okay. Of course, weep and sing, joy and woe. Uh, we call this antithesis. That's another figure of speech when you have two contrasting concepts in a balanced sentence, like we have and between them, for example, or anything. So weep and sing, joy and woe. We call this antithesis. If you like, you can. I mean, I don't make you learn this, but that's what this is actually called. And of course, you have a state of um, irony, because you have a person who weeps at one moment and sings at another. He's in joy and at woe at different times. So this state of irony is out of the contradictions of love that makes a person experience different emotions at different moments, and that because he's in a state of doubt. He doesn't know what to do. So the kind of image, so what is the poet presenting us in these lines? So he's first of all presenting us nature, and he's creating different images of nature, as nature is shown as a peaceful, calm place where everything is in its place, nothing disturbs their peace. And on the other side, you have the poet who is in a state of anxiousness and doesn't know what to do. And this makes the poet feel, or the speaker, is better to say the speaker, feel sorry for himself because he sees that the world is the same, nothing has changed. Night comes and the stars appear and the birds stop singing, everyone goes to sleep. He's the only one who's suffering. The world is not affected by what he's feeling. And this makes him feel sorry for himself. It just you have this thing described in different kinds of literature. So I'm going to explain this in Kurdish. Gata yani دوێنەی زۆر جیاواز ئەکاتە پاڵێک. یەکەم جار باسی سروش دەکات چۆن هەموو شتێک لە سروشدا وەکو خۆیەتی شەویەت ئاژەڵەکان ئەچنەوە ماڵی خۆیان، باڵندەکان لە خوێندنەوەستن، شەوێت ئەستێرەکان دەرەکەون، دەریا هێم نەبێتەوە، هەموو شتێک ئارامی خۆی پاراستووە، هەموو شتێک لە جێ خۆیەتی. جیهان ئارامی خۆی لە دەست نەیەوە، یاخوا با بڵێین سروشت ئارامی خۆی لە دەست نەیەوە لە کاتێککە ئەم ئارامی خۆی لە دەستیاوە لە حاڵەتێکی قەلەقایە، دڵنیا نییە، دەمێ پێ ئەکەن نەک پێکەنێ دەمێ ئەگری، دەمێ گۆرانی ئەڵێ، گۆرانی لە خۆشیە ئەڵێ، گۆرانی لەبەر ئازار ئەڵێت، لەبەی خۆشەویستی هەستی پێیەکا تەواو تەنگی پێڵچنیوە، بێزاری کردووە، حەزەکانی تایە زیاکەن و ناتوانێت هیچ بکات ئەو ویستانی هەنی ئازاریان طبعاً دوای ئێستا لە لاینەکانی ترە زیاتر بابەتەکە ڕوونەکاتەوە کاتە جۆرێک لە دوو وێنەی دژیەکە هەیە سروش لە جێ خۆیەتی هەموو شتێک ئارامە و ئەم خەفەت ئەخوا بۆ ئەوانی ئەڵێ من وام و کەچی هەموو شتێکی تر وەکو خۆیەتی سروش ئارامە ژیان وەکو خۆیەتی بەڵام منم کە ئارامیم لە دەستیەوە ڕەنگە هەموو کەسێک لە ئێمە مەرج نییە ئەو قسەمان ڕێک کرد بێ بەس ئەو حاڵەتە ڕوویاوە کە کێشەیەکە هەبووە خەفەتێکە بووە ئازیزێکە لە دەستیاوە ئەچیتە دەرەوە سێرەکەی جیهان لە جێ خۆیەتی خۆر هەر هەڵێت شەو هەریەت باڵندەکان ئەفڕن هیچ شتێک نەگۆڕاوە جا ئەم شعرا چۆن بڵێ ڕفلێکشنێکە لەسەر ئەو بابەتەکە ئەبینێ هەموو شتێک وەکو خۆیەتی ئارامییان لە دەست نێیاوە بەڵام ئەم لەو ئازارەیە ئەژی کەواتە ئەو حاڵەتە ژواکات بەزەی بەخۆیان بێتەوە. Okay, so part 2 you have for my sweet thoughts sometimes do pleasure bring, but by and by the cause of my disease gives me a pang that inwardly doth sting. When that I think what grief it is again to live and lag the thing should rid my pain. Okay, so the previous line he said because he's in a doubtful case, he sometimes sings in joy and other times for woe or out of pain. And this is because کاتە لە حاڵەتێکی گومانە لە بەرچی ئێستا ڕوونیەکاتەوە for my sweet thoughts sometimes do pleasure bring. Sometimes he has these positive, pleasant thoughts that give him pleasure. But by and by, but every now and then, the cause of my disease gives me a pang that inwardly doth sting. The cause of this pain that he calls it a disease gives him a pain. A pang is a kind of pain, like it stings, okay? And this pain stings him inward. When that I think what grief it is, when I remember or when I realize or when I think what a grief, what a sad thing it is, again, to live and lag the thing should rid my pain. To live without the thing that helps me get rid of my pain. Okay, so to explain this further, okay, so he's having positive thoughts that make him happy sometimes, but then he remembers the reason of or the cause of his pain, that he calls it a disease. So the cause of his disease is his state of being in love. Okay, so he is metaphorically describing his state of being in love, desperately in love, of unrequited love. We said Renaissance poetry is a lot of the times about unrequited love. خۆشەویستی یەکلایەنانە، خۆشەویستی ناکەم. Okay, so he calls this a disease. ئەم خۆشەویستە ناکامەی ناوە نەخۆشی. Okay, وەتاڵێ هەندێک جار بیرکردنەوە خۆشەکانم دڵم خۆشەکە بەڵام زوو هۆکاری نەخۆشیەکەم چیم لێ ئەکات. The cause of my disease gives me a pang that inwardly doth sting. ئازارێک مەیاتێکە لە ناخەوە چۆن بڵێیت جەرگم ئەبڕێ یاخوو کزەیەک لە جەرگم هەڵەستێنێ. pang that stings. sting ئەو جۆرە ئازارێک ئەکزێتەوە سوتا بێت. Okay, so the kind of pain, that pang of pain inwardly, okay, gives him a sting, just like the state of being burned. Okay, so sometimes he's happy, he's having positive, pleasant thoughts, but then every now and then, by and by, the reason of his disease, okay, gives him a pang that inwardly doth sting. And the reason is what? The cause is what? The cause is his state of being in love, okay? And so this his being in love has become like a disease, okay? So he's describing his state of being in unrequited love as a disease. And the cause of it is because he cannot be with the one he loves. So this cause that's making him sick is hurting him, making him suffer inward. So he doesn't have a physical disease. It's when he says inwardly doth sting, which means does sting. قال له now آزار ما معنی و اما نخوشیکی فیزیکی نیه نەخۆشیەکی معنەویە هەنی شتێکە کە نەفسیە بۆی ئەو حاڵەتەی تایەتی. Okay, when that I think what grief it is again. So the cause of his disease is what? Is when he think what grief it is again. When he thinks again, كجاري كبيرة كتشي كتخفتك what grief it is. To live and lack the thing should rid my pain. كبجيمو أو شتم پێ نەبێت یا ئەو شتم لەلا نەبێت کە لەو ئازارە ڕزگار مەکات. Which means to be with the one he loves. Okay? So, of course, here when you have these descriptions, like the pang that inwardly doth sting, and my pain, so these are all organic imagery. We said organic imagery means the sensations felt within the body. So you have organic imagery a lot in these lines, especially when he describes his pain. Okay, so what's the source of the poet's grief? And he describes it as grief. Grief in English means the pain of losing someone or something important to you, or the state of mourning a loss. So the reason of his grief is that he cannot be with the one he loves, with the one who gives him joy, with the one who will rid him of his pain. Of course, he uses the word the thing to mean the state of being with the one he loves. أو شتێک کە نیەتی کە کەمێتی ئەو شتە لای دەست ناکەوێت ئەوەیە کە بگات بۆ کەسێک خۆشەوێت. کەواتە هەموو جارە چی ئازاریە کە بیرەکەوێتەوە کە چ خەسارەتێکە چ ئەسەفێکە چ ماتەمێکە وشەی گریف بەکارێت کە بۆ ماتەم گێڕان بەکارێت کە ئەبێت بەردەوام بێت لە ژیان بەبێ ئەو شتەی کە وای لێ ئەکات لەو ئازارەی ڕزگاری بێت کە لێرەش ئەمە بەستی بە گەیشتن بەو کەسەیە کە خۆشەوێت. Okay, so this is the reason why he lost his peace. کەواتە ئەمە هۆکارێوەیە کە ئەو ئارامی لە دەستیاوە کە لە سروشتا لە دەست نەچووە. هەموو شتێکی کە دڵخۆشە یاخۆڵ هەموو شتێک ئارامی خۆی پاراستووە بەس ئەم نەبێت لەبەرەوەی he's in love and he's hopelessly in love, like there is not much hope at being with the one he loves. So that's basically what the whole poem is about. And you can see if we go back, we have a lot of imagery, and most of them are so the birds, their song do cease. This is auditory imagery. And the night sky, the stars about doth bring. So here you have visual imagery because you have stars and light and things like that. And also You have singing, again you have auditory imagery. Okay, and you have a lot of alliteration in this poem, so I'll help you with some of them. And you have consonant, of course. Do hold, so that's one consonant. And no, in, no, thing, so that's another consonant. The bees, the air, the birds, their song, do cease, so song and cease. And I can say bees and birds, although they are quite apart. Then we have waves, work, less and less. I explained that before. So bringing before, and whereat I weep, another illustration. And yeah, so you have, of course, you also have assonance. In all the poems we have these sound devices. But in summary, this poem is mostly, not mostly, this poem is about a person who is having not a relationship, is in love, but unrequited love. They are having a difficult time with their state of being in love, and they cannot be with the one they love because probably they are not sharing their emotions. And they notice how everything in nature is keeping their peace. Nothing is disturbing their peace, but they are the only ones who are suffering alone, and they are in a state of doubt. They cannot do anything about what they are experiencing because they think of the pain, of the grief, of not being able to be with the one whom they love, and this is making them suffer. And he's calling that state of suffering because of that unrequited love as a disease, an illness. Okay, so that's that. I hope it's clear. If you have any questions, comment down below. And that's it. Thank you for listening. Have a great time. Thank you.